want to give up so easily.
I mean, I tell people all the time, I said, this has been going on since at least the Kennedy assassination, because Lee Harvey Oswald was not the lone gunman. I mean, it's just a guy with a gun,
He
right?
wasn't, Greg.
Just one guy?
I'm convinced he was even a gunman.
Let's see the autopsy photos and unredacted Warren Commission. It's just a guy with a gun, right? Let's see all the photos. Oh, can't show you those. But this has been going on since the Kennedy administration. You think this is going to get cleaned up in a couple of years?
No, I think it's been going on long before.
Well, probably, yeah, but at least Kennedy.
At a minimum, it started in 1913 when they took over our money supply, right, with the Jekyll Island stuff. And
I think the Fed should be audited.
And maybe even before that, all the way back to the Civil War, and maybe even before the Civil War. But this is so deep.
Yeah.
This is, when people say deep state, yeah, it is deep. I mean, it's almost it's bottomless. This corruption, this criminality, and this is why it's beyond one guy.
Right.
Everybody has to realize that this is a fight not just of Trump. If you value freedom and you value liberty and you value your future, your kids' future, your grandkids' future, this is a fight that every one of our viewers and listeners has to be actively involved in.
Our allies were against Donald Trump.
It might be the way they're involved is they're sharing information with people that maybe are not of like mind. Okay, that's their part of the fight. But people have to get off the couch, and people have to join the fight, because this is more than one person's fight or a small group of people's fight.
Even our allies were against Merkel. Merkel just said just today that you have to give up your national sovereignty. Man, they're coming out in your face now. Countries have to give up their national sovereignty, according to the Chancellor of Germany. They give up. We have to have one new world order. Hey, they took bribes over in Germany for this Iran deal. That's what the top Iranian advisor said. They took bribes in France. They took bribes in the UK. The UK's intelligence services were trying to undermine Donald Trump. That's pretty clear. Nobody's gone to jail over there, Theresa May. But this is a huge, mammoth, global undertaking. I mean, I tell people all the time, you didn't think we were going to knock this out in just 2 years, do you? You didn't think we were going to fix this, right, in 2 years?
Angela Merkel. Nation state, you said it, nation states must give up their sovereignty to a new world order. That would be the same new world order that who spoke about all the time? How about George H.W. Bush?
Yes.
I believe in his presidency, he spoke about a new world order over 200 times.
Yeah.
Of which Billy Clinton was fully on board, of which George W. Bush was on board, of which Barack Obama was fully on board. This is what she said, quote, nation states must today be prepared to give up their sovereignty. According to German Chancellor Angela Merkel, who told an audience in Berlin that sovereign nation states must not listen to the will of their citizens when it comes to questions of immigration, borders, or even sovereignty.
She's a traitor. They should hang her in Germany.
Right, she is. But so was all these individuals that have talked about a new world order, that have pushed a new world order, that have pushed the policies of a new world order. And this is why everybody gets upset with me about this. George H.W. Bush, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, all of them are part of that new world order globalist crowd. And all too often people say, well, this is a Democrat issue. No, it's a Democrat and it's a Republican issue. Just look at this latest Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan.
Weasel.
To call him a rhino is really covering up what he really was. He was a globalist who was intent on taking down the system.
America.
Yes.
Let's talk about the funeral. Well, this is a perfect time to talk about that. I still want to talk about health care and this big ruling that said that there's no more tax, so no more Obamacare. But I want to get to that. You're expert on this, and I want to get to that. But let's go to the funeral where everybody opened these cards and everybody opened them up and went, had all these looks in their face. What went on? Well, what were they opening up? What went on with the cards? What do your sources say went on with these cards at the George H.W. Bush 41 funeral?
So the day before the funeral, December 4th, two of my sources called me up and said, are you going to be watching the funeral tomorrow? I said, heck no. I Are you kidding? I mean, this has been ridiculous. All this fawning over this globalist George H.W. Bush. I can't even. I'm not watching that. They go, you need to watch it, and watch close and see what happens. And I go, what am I watching for? We're not telling you. Just watch. I go, oh. So I end up watching the thing, and I'm watching the thing live, and I'm watching, and there were several observations I made in watching this thing that at the time I didn't realize were all going to add up. But a couple of things, when they first all started getting there, everybody's kind of having a party, right? The Clintons are talking to the Bidens, and they're saying some things to the Obamas. And what's interesting is when Pence came in, he greeted Hillary like an old friend. And I get a lot of grief for this, but from the very beginning, I've had huge problems and reservations about Pence. And the reason is because every time I see him, I get the same feeling I would get around some really bad actors in Washington that I knew were bad actors, that were played on the globalist side. And he walks in and, he's carrying on with Hillary, and they're laughing and carrying on, and it's kind of like, and I'm watching this and I'm going, well, this adds up. I mean, again, here we go, And I'm watching this thing, and then all of a sudden Trump's going to show up. And as President Trump comes in and Melania, a couple things. I mean, Hillary, right before this, Hillary is looking through the program, right? And I see, and something falls out. Well, I didn't think that much of it at the time until Jimmy Carter looks over at Hillary and he starts looking at his thing like, oh, God, oh, man, this is sad. I didn't get one of these. And he looks at Rosalind and he's having her go through and she's not getting, and poor Jimmy seems really bummed out he didn't get this, right? So I start thinking, well, this is kind of weird. Hillary got something. And then when she looked at it, Hillary, I mean, she didn't get crazy, but she had an expression on her face that was a concerned look, right? And then later, I saw the Bidens, same thing, and they were kind of acting up, and the Pence's got one, and the Obamas got one. I mean, this was later. I saw that, but I had initially seen Hillary's, and then Jimmy Carter's reaction. So, well, he didn't get one, she got one. No, let's just tuck that away. And then President Trump comes in, and her reaction was, whoa, I'm not looking at this guy. She was, it wasn't pretty, right? And what was interesting was when President Trump walked in and Melania, seated behind them were the Pences. Neither President Trump nor the First Lady said hello to them or shook their hands.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Oh, no. And at the time I said, well, maybe this is what the guys were talking about that I should watch for, because they know how much I really dislike Pence. And this is an indication that, there's something brewing between the two of them, and that, maybe we're going to see Pence, moving out or something, down the line. So this is what they wanted me to watch. Didn't say a word to them, either of them. They sat down and they said some things with the Obamas, but everybody was very, very cold, right? Then George W. comes in with the family, and he wasn't looking good. He was kind of wobbly, right? He was, and seemed really, and I'm thinking, well, maybe it's because, of his dad dying. On the other hand, his dad had his dad had been having medical problems for many years. So, and his dad was, 90 something. So, it's not like his dad was 50 and died, right? This was not a shock. And so he just looked a little bit off, kind of nervous and that kind of thing. And then occasionally they'd be shooting, the coverage would be looking at him and the family, and he was just looking very ill at ease. And at one point they showed him and he was kind of writing something on a piece of paper. Well, the word I heard was that what were in the envelopes that Pence's, Obama's, Biden's, Clinton's received And as I was told, there were a number of other people in the audience who also got envelopes. And the envelopes were not, if you will, indictments, but actually an indication of coming attractions of who was going to be on the hook. Okay.
Wow.
But that's different. So then we go through the service, and George W. gives his eulogy to his dad. And then he walks and he sits down, and I'm watching this, and he's kind of almost rocking in his chair a little bit, okay? And licking his lips and rubbing his hands. And this is a guy who is obviously very nervous about something. And it's toward the end of the ceremony. So you think if he's going to be doing that, he'd be doing that right before he went up to speak, although he's given thousands of speeches. But now he's acting like this, and his speech is over. And now they have the casket, and they're passing by. And as they pass by, this is where Laura looks at something, not an envelope, and shows Jeb, who should never play poker because he just looks like he's about to vomit. And the question is, what was that? And one of the things I saw afterwards, they had a wider angle where Trump is watching all this. President Trump and he's watching all of this. So it was my indication that the boss knew what was happening here. Okay. And what I believe is that at that time where they showed George Bush writing something, George Bush wrote something. And then as the casket was passing by, which I believe was what he was tasked to do, he showed it to Laura, and Laura showed it to Jeb. And Laura said to W, I think something like, "Is this real?" And his answer was, "Yup." And he put his head down, kind of like.
So they were put on notice that you guys are in trouble.
What that note was, what I was told, is not what the other people had. What George W. had written, it's my understanding, was something about Pence. You see, Pence was the Bush's insurance policy. Pence, I believe, from what I've told, is a globalist. And the plan ultimately was to move Trump out. You take that any way you want, okay? Impeachment or other means. Move Trump out, Pence steps in. I believe if you go back to last year's Super Bowl, who was in George H.W.'s private box? But Pence. And it was my understanding that Pence was going to slide in, and and Pence was seen as the insurance policy for the globalists in particular, with the Bush family and all the operations they're involved with. And when Laura saw this, and the note being Pence is out, Pence is done, she realized, we got a problem, and showed it to Jeb, who essentially runs the family business, whatever that might be. And this is why he looked like he was going to vomit. And there was one thing that was out there which showed that Jeb was looking directly at the Secret Service agent behind W. Interesting, right? There are two agents right behind Bush, W. But if you look behind all the other presidents on the other side, the Secret Service agents were not the row behind them.
What does that mean?
Well, I think what it means is I think they were there just to kind of let George know, George, you got to deliver the information to your family, and we're going to make sure you do that because we're here behind you. You got to uphold.
Why would they do that? Why would they want them to deliver this information? Like you guys are in trouble. Is he just trolling them, or what's the point of that?
So a couple things. Yeah, I think that part of it, but also I think a couple things. Number one, the timing. Remember, that hearing with the whistleblowers was set for December 5th.
Yeah.
George H.W.'s death was announced November 30th.
Yeah.
Notice I said was announced November 30th.
Yeah.
And then they decided, we want to have the memorial service on when? December 5th, the same day the whistleblowers were supposed to come forward about the Clinton Foundation. And I believe they thought if they could get this thing delayed, maybe they could take matters in their own hands and alter what happened at that hearing at a later date. And this is why I think everybody started to push the limelight on Huber, because they wanted everybody to think Huber was going to deliver the goods, when in fact the guys delivering the goods were Moynihan and Doyle.
The Trump people, the white hats, were putting the got it.
And I also believe they wanted to get everybody in the same room, and they wanted to deliver the information when they knew they were under view of cameras.
And you think these people will be tearing them? They'll be destroying each other to try to get a deal, so they don't all go to jail for the rest of their lives. I mean, or be executed. I mean, they committed treason. We're in a war footing, according to the Kavanaugh and Lindsey Graham exchange at the Kavanaugh confirmation hearing. We're in a war stance, which means anything you do like this is treason.
These people, I believe, are all involved in very nefarious, horrible criminal activity that affects the welfare of every American citizen and the sovereignty of our country. That being said, I also believe they're amateur criminals. They're not hardened criminals, in a sense that I believe when it comes down to it, I agree with you, Greg. I think that these people will turn on each other like cornered rats, like you can't believe, to try to save themselves, as opposed to somebody taking a hit for the team, okay, and saying, I'll take the hit for the team as long as the whole remains. None of these people have that philosophy. It's every person for themselves.
Well, what about the Twitter that has been out recently? It's yet another thing. We're going to get to the ruling. I want to talk about that too. The ruling on Obamacare. What about all the Twitter accounts? I mean, I've seen one after another where they just boing radio silence. All of a sudden, they just have shut down. Just before Christmas, and there's hardly anybody saying anything to anyone. Are these guys all in Gitmo, or what's going on?
I don't believe they're in Gitmo.
Are they under house arrest?
I did run it. Here's what I ran by folks I know that are very knowledgeable and have always been on target. I said, look, there's been this social media. I mean, the Obamas, for their Christmas photo, posted a photo from 2 years ago. This radio silence from these people that were shooting their mouths off all the time. I mean, the last time Brennan shot his mouth off was, I think, December 20th, and his last tweet was just ripe with desperation, panic. I mean, just hysteria. I said, these folks have been awfully quiet. I go, is this silence related to what happened, the information that was delivered at the funeral? And the answer